Okay, it reckons we're live. So I normally just pause a wee bit just in case, because normally it chops some words off. So yeah, welcome to the Out There channel, live stream 131. We're just carrying on from the Roswell stuff and a few other bits that have come to light. And Stanton Friedman, I need to do some corrections there, or actually just talk more about him. And so I'll just cue the intro and music, and we've got John joining us at the moment. So let's see how we go. So hopefully it's got some sound. Hopefully it's not. Is that glitching?
No, not on the sound.
Sounds like it's crackling to me on the monitor, which I probably should have restated the mixer because it's YouTube that hears it.
You don't have me monitored. You don't have me muted.
I don't. Yeah, this audio can go crazy sometimes, Windows 10. And Discord can have problems, they do updates all the time. Yes, so this is going to be like 3 hours probably. Depends how my brain goes. As we see, we're running late. I'm not sure if anyone's watching. Yeah, well, let's have some fun talking about things. It's called live research. Yeah, so I'll just pause that music so you can hear me. Yeah, so it's called live research. We find out things as we go. I don't claim to have it all stored in my head and make mistakes here and there. And that's why we have people to help me out on the side chats or come on voice and help me out. Let's see if I pause that. So yeah, I'll just switch over to the desktop and unmute John. Hello.
Did you miss me?
Did we miss you? Of course we did.
There you go.
See, who else is gonna speak the words that I can't get out my head because I'm brain dead or tired from being. I didn't get to bed to 5:40 a.m. again. I've had like 5 nights like that in a row now, and sort of been working on the UFO topic and looking what I'm going to talk about and doing some background.
Tell them what time it is right now where you are.
It's 11:30 p.m.
So you've had 4.5 hours of sleep.
No. Let's set work out 6. Oh yeah, I got up at 11:30. So what was that? 5 hours sleep. So yeah, I'm not doing too bad. It looks like the counters are updated. 1-1. So we've got no one joining us yet. So that's all right. So yeah, Robert was meant to be joining us. I don't know if he will. I'm not sure what's going on with him. He had a domestic situation in his house, which has upset him. I'm not sure if he wants to talk about it or not. But yeah, I can understand why he doesn't want to come on talk. But he's a bit upset with me. He's talking about Stanton Friedman. So I'm just going to go over Stanton again and talk more about what I was trying to get across. But I was wrong about saying he was worked as 2 weeks as an Eagle visitors. And what I was trying to refer was the last job he worked on that he said was a real project that got cancelled. So I'll go over that more today and see what you think. So yeah, I've got some news headlines here. Is the sound working all right? I think it's blinking. Did you hear the music okay there, John? On the intro?
Yeah, everything came through beautifully.
Okay, cool. Because normally I do check otherwise. So scientists figure out how auroras create speed bumps for satellites orbiting Earth. So this article was posted recently by Open Minds, I think it was. And you know how satellites increase and lose time, and they got to adjust it every day for GPS to work properly. And they keep saying it's space time and all that sort of stuff. So now they're saying this from those, I suppose, those NASA experiments where they dropped the bombs from the sky, and Tyler and other people, Hoax Channel, said they were UFOs. Looks like maybe they've got some information back from the experiment now. Speed bumps for satellites orbiting Earth. So might have to zoom the screen. So my eyes are not super good at the moment. Scientists discovered that the aurora is responsible for pushing pockets of air up into the edges of the atmosphere. So as we know that the Earth's atmosphere goes out hundreds and hundreds of kilometers into space, and it gets thinner and thinner and thinner, of course. You know, like the hydrogen or helium leak out into the space, and the solar winds knock it out and make it drift off. As you know, we looked at the helix solar system, where we're actually moving in a funny three-dimensional way through space and on the edge of a spiral arm. So we're not actually stationary, even though we feel like we're stationary. We're swimming around space. We're actually space astronauts in a way. So that's why we can have objects fly into our solar system from somewhere else, and why galaxies obviously collide with each other and are moving all the time. So yeah, the edge of space is a very interesting one. I've talked about it previously in live, so I won't go over it again here. And so these discover these speed bumps that can slow satellites down orbiting Earth. As you know, we also talked about how they can get satellites to reposition in orbit again. Sometimes solar winds knock it out of position, but now they're talking about these speed bumps, which is like obviously charged. Well, it's charged atmosphere up in the upper atmosphere as the solar wind's hitting it, right? So that's my thing. It's all to do with energy differences, energy flux, magnetic fields, and all that sort of stuff. It's going to affect the electronics on the satellites. It doesn't have to be space-time where it proves that space is bent. It proves that all this stuff is invisible to us, is actually there in space. Energy is flowing through things, and it's changing the atomic the position of atoms and all that sort of stuff. The atomic clocks on satellites actually use vibrations, like a quartz crystal in a way. It vibrates and they measure it, the vibrations, and they can break it down to millionths of a second and all that sort of stuff. So what happens is that gets changed in space. Well, it actually gets changed on airplanes even. It doesn't even have to be in space. The further you go up, the time difference from ground atomic clock to the clock in space or higher up on a mountain changes over months and years. So it's a very small difference, but it's noticeable, and it's enough for GPS to not function properly. Instead of being a couple of meters out, it's miles out and all that sort of stuff. So they've got to correct it. So yeah, don't know if I want to read out all this or not.
That was a good explanation, Paul. Thank you.
But on the mission, yeah, well, that's my view on it, and that's why I sort of question the space-time thing, where they say Einstein's been proven right. Just look at satellite time, But there's other ways to look at the same conclusion, And my mate thinks the same way. He thinks about these things all the time. I really wanted to get him to come on and start talking about his ideas and stuff, because he's pretty radical,
So was Tesla, the original Tesla.
Well, everybody makes mistakes, right? Even Tesla made mistakes, right. And he didn't know about the atomic bomb and all that stuff. He died before that even happened. But it may have changed some of his viewpoints and things. But you got to remember, Tesla and Einstein were actually good mates, and Einstein actually believed in the ether system that Tesla was proposing, and he almost changed his mind about the quantum stuff to go back to the ether. But of course, once it's been published and out there in public, there's no going back. You had to either stick with it, space time and all that sort of stuff. But I think Tesla used to show him stuff and say, well, how does that fit in, with your mathematics and all that? And as you know, a lot of people are now saying that Einstein is wrong. PhD people that are looking more into him. That I don't know if it's become public yet, but it has been talked about that they found some problems with Einstein's theory and calculations. So yeah, maybe it will come out eventually.
Right.
Anyway,
go ahead.
I'm just going to munch on a sandwich. Because I don't have anything to eat yet.
Okay. Okay. Well, see, the thing that a lot of people seem to forget is, yes, Einstein and Tesla, they were very unique individuals and very, very smart in what they were doing, but they were just two out of how many people on the planet?
Yeah.
There are a lot of smart people out there, and there are a lot of people that are much smarter than those two individuals were collectively. But you don't hear about them. But they're out there.
Well, I do cover it in a lot of my episodes that people don't watch everything, of course. And both were brilliant men, of course. And both of them made mistakes. Every human makes mistakes. If you're tired, especially, or you can only go on the information that you've got to formulate things. So they keep saying they're proving Einstein right, this and that all the time on modern science, right? But then you get on the web and start reading up other PhDs that says Einstein is wrong. You can Google Einstein wrong and see what they're saying. And what they're saying makes sense. And obviously Einstein was right about energy and mass, where you can take a mass of a substance and create all the energy, because the atomic bomb is proof of that, right? But he might be wrong that being speed of light is a constant. It may not have been, or it may not be now. A lot of people said they've got experiments going through crystals where light actually speeds up. So, and now CERN come out with an experiment saying they've got particle that's actually going faster than the speed of light. What is light? It's an energy particle called a photon. So, yeah. Tesla said atomic particles actually go faster than speed of light. He said it for a long time in his ideas, but no one listened to him. Anyway,
wow, it must be nice to have a mom make you a sandwich. Jeez, Paul.
Well, I didn't ask for it.
I'm just giving you a hard time because I can.
She likes making cheese toasties. You know how cheese toasties are.
Oh, toasted cheese sandwiches are the best.
We call them toasties. We call them toasties here.
That word too.
The rabbit goes in the bar and asks for a cheese sandwich, a toasted sandwich, and then he orders a ham and cheese sandwich and dies. And the moral story is don't mix your toasties.
Oh, Jesus.
That's an old joke from school. We're talking about 40 years ago. Well, not that long ago.
You Kiwis and your humor.
Yes, you shouldn't mix your toasties. You should always keep the same ingredients. Okay, I'm just scroll down here anyway. Eating a crunchy bit of toast at the moment. Researchers found lower energy. I suppose I should try and get that reader to read it out. Just get it amped in. Let's see if it works with a few words this time.
Researchers found T.
So we do that initially, and then
Yes, they did.
it's activated. Okay, so they can read out
Researchers found that lower energy auroras, different from the bright ribbons of light normally seen near the poles, had been prompting strange atmospheric behaviors. Because these lower energy auroras, known as poleward moving auroral forms, PMAF, occur at such high altitudes, they transfer more of their energy to the atmosphere.
I'm definitely
That
getting
is the worst voice. I'm sorry.
I'm just getting some weird crackle. I'm just going to restart the mixer. It shouldn't affect the stream. I'll just close it down and reopen it just in case it's not doing it right.
Okay. Negs is dropping out and everything else is system.
Okay, see if it sounds any better now. Are you still there?
Yep, I'm here.
Okay, so let's just read out the next bit and see how it sounds. To me, might be Discord, of course.
Oh, yeah.
Instead of sparkling at just 60 miles, 100 kilometers, above ground, MAFs are fainter and occur up to 250 miles, 400 kilometers, above the ground. They are also responsible for pushing hot air out towards space, although it ultimately will fall back to the Earth, creating a gloopy environment for satellites to travel through. You can think of the satellites traveling through air pockets or bubbles similar to those in a lava lamp as opposed to a smooth wave, said Dr. Lessard.
So that sounded a lot better to me in the headset. I didn't get any weird clicking, so hopefully it's fixed.
Right. And I listened to it. I muted my mic and listened to it on the live, and it sounds great.
Okay, cool.
No glitching, no dropouts, no nothing.
Early space exploration missions found that satellites had difficulties in orbit when the sun was active. They began to drag in their orbit, slowing down and potentially falling back to Earth. For low Earth orbit satellites, continued orbit is crucial. They perform lots of functions for society, from weather pictures through to communications.
And that is it. So we know that obviously solar wind causes friction, it's particles and energy and all that. So it makes sense it would slow down craft or change the orbit. But they're not saying it's smooth. They're saying it's got these little pockets, and a bit like when you fly in a plane, you know how you get the bumpy rides? So it's a bit like that, I guess, where the air density changes and the plane actually drops for a few seconds, microseconds, and lifts up again and causes that bump sound. I don't know if you've ever been in enough plane flights to have that. They're flying from Australia to New Zealand. When we get to the west coast of New Zealand, where the Alps are to fly over, it can get a bit bumpy because all the air currents are changed over it. The mountain pass there. Okay, so that was the news item there, which I thought was quite interesting. And whereabouts did I put it? On the end here, was it? I might have to change that zoom level. Zoom's in a bit too much. Close that one down. Open tab. Oh no, I just closed the wrong one, haven't I? Or have I? Yep. What did I just close down? Oh no, that's right, I unpinned it. And then I need to close it. Oh, I thought I did wrong there. So the other big news.
Yes, you do have a few tabs open. Sorry, go ahead.
I have to expand it to full window just to see tabs. So this is the other thing that's hitting the news, and I think we've got Open Minds that also talks about it here. Navy creating new UFO reporting guidelines, and of course, a lot of credit's going to Tom DeLonge, of course, and everybody's all upset about To the Stars and Tom DeLonge getting all the credit for because people have been demanding disclosure for many years. So I'll just read out a chunk of it here. Oh, probably shouldn't do the header if I can avoid it. Let's see if it works.
According to a Politico article posted today, it appears the United States Navy is acknowledging the UFO mystery. According to the article, the United States Navy is drafting new guidelines for reporting office. They have also provided a series of briefings by senior naval intelligence officials as well as aviators who reported hazards to aviation safety. The later is no surprise to Open Minds.tv readers and podcast listeners. Ever since Lou Elizondo, a member of Tom DeLonge's To the Star Academy, TSAT, claimed he was part of a Pentagon project to investigate office, his former program has gotten a lot of attention. So have the Navy pilots who chased one of the office in their reports. David Fravor and several other of the witnesses to the 2004 USS Nimitz carrier strike group UFO encounter have been on television sharing what they experienced. We have also seen news of congressional committees receiving briefings from these gentlemen, perhaps even says Elizondo. Here are some of the critical items in the Politico article.
So basically summed up the other page that I've got open. So it looks like there's not much there, so I don't think so. Does he keep on going? No. I'll just read out the rest of the paragraphs here then. Where do we get to? It's funny how we can't sort of select sometimes. HTML.
There have been a number of reports of unauthorized and/or unidentified aircraft entering various military-controlled ranges and designated airspace in recent years. For safety and security concerns, the Navy and the USAF takes these reports very seriously. The Navy isn't endorsing the idea that its sailors have encountered alien spacecraft, but it is acknowledging there have been enough strange aerial sightings by credible and highly trained military personnel that they need to be recorded, rather than dismissed. In response to requests for information from congressional members and staff, Navy officials have provided a series of briefings by senior naval intelligence officials as well as aviators who reported hazards to aviation safety, the service said in its statement to Politico. Read the entire article here. United States Navy drafting new guidelines for reporting office. Elizondo has said that if it were not for TSAT, he may not have made his involvement in the Pentagon UFO program public. It was Elizondo's revelations that created the media fervor and subsequently brought attention to this topic. That means the efforts of rock star DeLonge played a large part in today's story. Read more here. Tom DeLonge strikes UFO gold.
So what do you think of that? Tom DeLonge. So Open Minds is saying it's to do with them, else it wouldn't have happened. But I'm just wondering myself.
I'm still on the fence about him.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, was it really him, or did they pick someone in the UFO community that they wanted to use as a figurehead? And got passed the information on to him, because I know he was talking to some of the political people to do with Hillary's thing. What's that guy's name? Podesta. And maybe his emails got leaked because he used a password, some simple password like Fred or something on his password, and someone hacked into it apparently, like a kid hacker, and saw the emails through what Tom DeLonge was talking about apparently, and then leaked them out to the web through WikiLeaks, I think it was it? You know, I can't remember exactly how it all went down, but yeah, that's quite interesting though. I suppose in a way, Elizondo is the key player here. He quits, and then how did he get permission to release information that he did is the question, you know, down here.
Elizondo, I think he stepped out on his own from what I'm looking.
Did he approach Tom DeLonge perhaps and then say, I need someone to help me bring it attention out?
See, that's where Tom DeLonge won't really tip his hand. He won't. He'll say, like a deep throat source of mine told me, and that's about all he'll say. You know, I'm paraphrasing there, but that's about all I'm getting out of Tom DeLonge as far as, okay, where's this info coming from, and how did it link you with Elizondo?
My problem with Tom,
who knows?
My problem with Tom DeLonge though is he said, you know, he's got on Joe Rogan spouting this is a UFO when clearly it was just CGI, right? Everybody knows it was CGI. In fact, I think the one he showed was actually done by those German brothers, wasn't it? The CGI one. It was actually proven. Anyway, he won't have it. I've got to type my message down the side here, so I'll do that now. I thought we might have Renee joining us. Anyway, whoever joins us is welcome. To add their thoughts and opinions on the side there. And if you're on our Discord channel, you could even get invited on to talk about things. So if you got a sighting out there, got some videos that you want to talk about or get analysed, do bring them on the show. I think we got Discord link there, John, on the side. But you can find it on the About tab of the YouTube channel anyway.
Yep, that's what I said.
Okay. So that was the article there. Not much really. Better make it full screen so I don't close the wrong one. That one there. Should be able to see the icons. That looks like various websites. That looks like the Open Minds one, you see. I wish it would highlight the tab, you know, like a white or something somehow to stand out, or put a little border around it or something so you know which tab is selected, because look at that and you think, have I clicked on one of those? Yeah. It might be the dark.
It's just barely a lighter gray.
You know, it's probably to do with the theme, but because we chose dark theme over the other one. So close tab on that one. So this is also the full article that he took a clip from. US Navy drafting new guidelines for reporting UFOs. So all the conspiracy and hoax channels out there have been talking about it, even Secure Team. So we won't spend too long on it because probably people already heard about it. But basically, what's interesting is talking about craft that outperformed the normal craft with humans in it. It went at speeds that the G-forces wouldn't be able to support a human person inside of it, which means they could be drone craft from another country. It don't have to be aliens, because they talk about aircraft here, don't they? Number of reports of unauthorized or unidentified aircraft. See, they don't say alien craft or anything like that. They're still using language which is not even related to disclosure. The Navy said a statement in response to questions. So where's the thing about alien craft here? Added the Navy is updating and formalizing the process. Reports any such suspected incursions can be made to the blah 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 authorities. Like satellite data or radar that sees something going, if I can get across, going Mach 3, they will dump the data because it's not a traditional aircraft or missile. So anything over Mach 3 is what they're going to record, by the looks of it. So we talk about fast walkers and slow walkers before previous lives, what it actually meant. And basically, it's any data or that they detected stuff moving out of the atmosphere really fast or into the atmosphere really fast. Well, obviously, the ones coming into the atmosphere could easily be meteorites, but also meteorites do skim off the atmosphere and bounce back up into space as well. So they could also be leaving as well. So yeah, we're still, it can go either way. Whether they're releasing all the information they have on this, they clearly haven't released everything to the public still, saying why it's not a meteorite and another spaceship from another country or whatever. I'm pretty sure they must have by now planes that can take off, right, and go up in the atmosphere and then into space and then come back down. They must have that working by now, I reckon. They've done nothing.
Oh, I'm sure they did.
So this thing about the Aurora project, which was apparently leaked by accident in a budget report to Pentagon, remember, and they were looking for money, and it mentioned the Aurora program in it or something like that. I can't remember. It was a few years ago now.
Right.
You probably could Google and find out probably more information on that, how it got leaked out. I think it was.
Yeah, they use scramjet equipped aircraft.
You found a link on more information, have you?
No, I've just known that for years. I studied that myself.
Right.
So yes, scramjet technology allows them to leave the atmosphere.
Well, I think they would be using something that's not using a fuel, because which will bring to what Stanton Friedman was apparently researching. So I'm going to talk about what I found out about that. But apparently, having a aircraft that can fly around the globe for years without having to land to refuel is actually possible. But the problem is whether it kills the people in it. But apparently they could do it with a drone control now. You can have drones that never need to come down.
Right.
And you could have like I was talking about these stealth blimps. You could have like blimps that supply military bullets and missiles and reload things, so they'd never have to come down to the ground, and they can always send other planes up to restock the blimp that's floating around in the atmosphere, which is probably a stealth print, so it's not being detected by radar. You know what weather balloons are like; they don't detect them on airport radar, so possibly they won't detect it on advanced military radar either. They'll just the radio frequencies will just pass straight through. So especially if they've got these exotic materials. Excuse me. So yeah. So let's find out about Stanton Friedman, because I said that he worked 2 weeks as a nuclear physicist and then got sacked. But I was trying to refer to what interview I have heard, and I've got a clip here which I'll play. But basically, the summary is that he worked 14 years as a nuclear physicist for 7 companies, including General Electric. There's a list here in this article, I think. Career in nuclear physics. So I'll just zoom in and read. Friedman was employed for 14 years as a nuclear physicist for such companies as I just said, General Electric. 1956, so that's well after the nuclear bomb stuff, wasn't it? Aerojet General Nucleonics. How do you say that?
Where? AFTRA? Aerojet General Nucleonics? Aerojet General Nucleonics, yeah.
Aerojet General Nucleonics.
Nucleonics.
And I was vindicated.
And General Motors, Westinghouse, TRW system.
TRW, the Dunn Douglas, yeah.
Where he worked on advanced classified programs on nuclear aircraft. Okay. Fission
But in
and
what
fusion.
capacity?
Yeah, that's what we're going to talk about. And
Right.
fission and fusion rockets and compact nuclear power plants for space applications. Well, as you know, the Mars rover actually has a low-grade nuke reactor thing that boils water. It's always giving off radiation, so it heats up. And water they use for cooling down nuclear plants, as you know. Well, it's got like a fuel cell, a nuclear fuel cell on it, where it used to get its power from. So now I've heard that it's finally given up the ghost. So they used that to keep the circuits warm and all that stuff, and they used the solar cells to charge the batteries even more when the sun come round. And as you know, a couple of times it died where a dust storm covered the solar cells, and it lost charge. And then the wind come back again a year later and blew the dust off, and then it suddenly charged up again, and the computer come out of hibernation and started talking to NASA again. But so that he's talking about stuff like that, I guess. But the thing that I have is he's a great book writer, obviously, and a great researcher in the UFO field. But he's always, when he does presentations, he spends most of the time talking about himself. You know, he's done presentations that are hour long, and half of it's been talking about himself. You know, how he worked in the nuclear industry and all that sort of stuff. But we're not actually seeing any videos of him working on these projects, and obviously people have known him personally, probably got to see, you know, personal documents and photographs of him, and know that he's telling the truth and all that sort of stuff, right? And but I think I did a search and I couldn't find any prints of his qualifications or proof that he worked on these places, his pay slips or anything like that online. There might be something out there if someone's got information that proves that Stanton is what he says he is. Let me know, because he's a fine one to say that Bob Lazar was a floor cleaner at Area 51 when he could himself be a floor cleaner, you know, because what did he actually do at these places? You know, he worked 14 years and changed his job 7 times. Is it 7 times? How many there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Was it 6? I thought it was 7. Someone mentioned 7 somewhere. Anyway, since 1960s, he has done related consultant work in the radium detection industry. What does that mean exactly? Was he a consultant all the time, or was he only a consultant after 1960? Watch out for the music. John.
It's off.
Okay.
It's my stupid phone. I can't help it.
Okay. So if you look at his work history here, after 1980s, he's done consultant work, not 1960s. So that's when he also got into UFO stuff, wasn't it? 1980s. Professional affiliation included the American Nuclear Society, American. So obviously he's qualified, you know, he's obviously got the degrees and all that. But when you get your first job right, you're not going to be like a lead project engineer. You're not going to be, when he talks, he sounds like he's actually the guy that's got the ideas, and he's actually there screwing the nuts and bolts on and and there with the goggles on, watching the engine kick on fire and all that sort of stuff. I'd like to see photographs of all that and videos. But he keeps saying it's top secret or classified, so that's always like a out, like I don't have to show you anything. You just have to take my word for it. And that's the same what happened with Bob Lazar. So yeah. So anyone's got any real information on Stanton out there, be glad to see it. Maybe there's a documentary out there about Stanton that's got the old photographs or videos. Just let us know. We'll sort of bring up some on the screen. So let's see. In 1970, Friedman left full-time employment as a physicist to pursue the scientific investigation of UFOs. So, if you train to be a nuclear physicist and only work 14 years, I don't think that's a very long time to do a career, to do all that degrees or PhDs and then just work 14 years and then give it away. Seems kind of strange to me. So I worked 25 years in the computer industry, and I changed jobs every 5 years, not every 2 years, most of the time. And they say you go a bit stale if you stay in a company more than 5 years, which is probably true. And of course, computer field, you always have to relearn things. It's always changing. I think nuclear physics may not be changing that much. So how interesting it could be, I don't know. But yeah, I have found some interesting stuff on nuclear engines that I want to talk about. What's going on between you and AS51? I see some. These are just popping up on the other screen.
Yeah. Just nothing to see here. Move along.
So criticism and controversies. So what's it say here? Friedman is outspoken in his
articulation
on positions and in his criticism of UFO debunkers. Is it? Debunkers, yep. Often stating he is not a apologist, ufologist. His positions are regarded as controversial in mainstream science and media, but Freeman claims he has received little opposition at many lectures, most of which have been at colleges and universities, many to engineering societies and other groups of physicists. He has had a number of debates in the mainstream media, including one with UFO skeptic Michael Shermer. He's the one that does the Skeptic magazine on CNN. He actually destroyed Michael Shermer. They did a debate on UFOs, and I think it was on Coast to Coast as well, was it? Was it a Coast to Coast interview, or was it on CNN? But he totally destroyed Michael Shermer. Michael Shermer didn't have all his facts correct, and Stanton did. About abduction cases, stats, and how many were during the day, and all that sort of stuff. So he knew all that. Chris has been criticized both by skeptics and other Roswell researchers. So there you go. I'm not the only one sort of questioning his work history. Has he embellished a lot of the stuff that he claims he's done? What did he actually do? I know people exaggerate their work history when they do job interviews, and if you repeat it enough times, you actually believe it. We had a guy in our university that actually got a really high position job, right? He claimed he worked for Aerospace Britain, blah, 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 and no one did a background check on him. You think HR are there to do background checks before they hire someone. Turned out he had never worked at British Aerospace at all. When he left our university and went out to work as a right-hand man to a CEO for an electronics company, they decided a year after hiring him that he wasn't actually cutting out. He wasn't actually doing stuff. He should have known stuff, basic engineering stuff that he claimed that he should have been an expert in. So they got a bit suspicious. So they sent someone to UK to actually do a background check on him, and none of his CV turned out to be valid. He didn't even have any qualifications. So that's how bad that someone can slip through the net. And if you get a company that hires them right, you can put that on the CV, and that's something that legit is true, but all the rest of it underneath is false. So yeah, and we've had doctors in New Zealand also claim to be qualified, and they've done surgeries. It turns out they had no qualifications whatsoever. So how's that happen? You know, and a lot of people were sick and died from his operations, and later found out that because he come from another country, they didn't verify his claims of doing universities there and actually passing PhD and all that sort of stuff. So that's happened in New Zealand. So now they're doing a bit more background checks, and so it never happens again. So yeah, so who's actually done research on Stanton Friedman is what I want to know. Who out there has actually done a video about his life and actually got pictures and family snapshots? Because obviously he's a big player in the UFO field, and people would be interested in that sort of things. I've tried to search for stuff like that, and I haven't come across anything. All I can find is stuff in the UFO field and books that he's written. So yeah, you know, my philosophy is question everything. People say he's legit, so he's legit, you know, but he may have exaggerated some things, you know, because it makes him sound better. So let's just go to the interview that I was talking about, which is quite interesting, the words he used, and I'll see what you think of it. Now, this is where he retired. So just go back a wee bit, where he's talking about his work history, because he likes to talk about it. And it's hard to interrupt him, as you see. Martin tries to. You see, he talks about something and then changes subject, and Martin tries to bring him back. So
power level was 1,100 megawatts.
Okay, probably need to go back a wee bit. How loud was that? Do I need to amp it up? So,
Yep,
sound a wee bit too low my end, but we'll just go back and listen to maybe a 5-minute segment here so we can discuss it.
So that got me started. I didn't get my first lecture. I'm a little slow on the draw. As a nuclear physicist, you have to be careful what you say.
Sure.
People expect you to be factual, you know.
Yeah.
And so I didn't get my first lecture until 1967. And I didn't go full time really until about 1978 or so. No, not that late, but there were a lot of years of speaking before I went full time. The problem was that I worked in a,
Sounds good.
how will I put it, a volatile industry, advanced nuclear propulsion sort of things. I worked on nuclear airplanes for General Electric. It wasn't a small program. In 1958, we spent $100 million. We employed 3,400 people, of whom 1,100 were engineers and scientists. This wasn't 6 professors sitting around the table, you know. I worked for the most exciting thing in my professional career, if you will, was working for Westinghouse Astronuclear Lab when we tested the NRX A6 nuclear rocket reactor propulsion system out at the nuclear test site, not far from Area 51. You know, the thing was this big. Power level was 1,100 megawatts.
Hate to pay that electric bill.
Yeah. That was exciting. We listened. The test was done out in Nevada, but we were back in Pennsylvania, and we were listening. 5 minutes elapsed, nominal temperature and pressure in 10 minutes. We had no idea how long the thing would last. Nobody had ever done this before. The exhaust temperature, liquid hydrogen in cold, very cold, and out at 4,000 degrees. That's hot.
Amazing.
Jet engines usually 1,800 or something like that. And this is over 4,000. So that was so exciting. And then they canceled the program. I mean, Los Alamos had a slightly larger one, 4,000 megawatts, and Aerojet tested one. So there were 3 very successful tests, all meeting the requirements of the testing, and they canceled the program because we're not going anywhere. And that was the frustrating thing. And I thought I was headed for the best job you could imagine. They canceled the nuclear rocket program. Okay, I'm looking around for a job, sending out resumes, and I knew Dr. Robert Wood at McDonnell Douglas in California. And I got a job offer, and my job would have been to figure out how flying saucers worked. Gorgeous opportunity,
I don't think I've ever heard this part.
Well,
No.
In other words, how to do space travel. Is that what you're?
well, how to get, from here to there. But more importantly, I guess, from a McDonnell Douglas viewpoint, they were in aerospace, of course, was how do you zip around in the atmosphere? You zip, 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 And so I'm driving across the country when I heard on the radio that the program Manned Orbiting Laboratory, which I was going to be working under, got canceled. As I'm driving across the country, and I walk in, nothing like being greeted with, I show my papers and stuff, I had an offer and all that. We just laid off 5,000 people.
Wow. That's the job you just took?
The job I
Yeah.
just took, they kept me for 3 months. I could do whatever I wanted.
Wow.
Well,
at least you didn't get it by a Twitter.
No, I didn't. And it was, I really was looking forward to it because I've been working for 14 years in industry. And so here is a chance.
So this is the important part coming up here. So now he's saying he's been working 14 years in industry, and here is a chance. Now listen to what he says here. A51 is sending a little beeps our way though.
Chance to
Yeah,
put
yeah.
all-
He's
all
busy.
the
It's okay.
work
Move
to
on.
use, so to speak. And I was interested in the zipping around in the atmosphere and going to the stars and so forth. And so the one thing I did that was exciting to me, I did a literature search on magnetoaerodynamics. And I found like 900 references, which astonished me, frankly, that so many people were looking into this. If you ionize the air around a vehicle in the atmosphere, there's a law of physics that says if you've got a current moving at right angles to a magnetic field, you get a force at right angles to the electric field that you've generated with the current and the magnetic field. And people actually have built an electromagnetic submarine. Well, we don't think of it that way, but seawater is an electrically conducting fluid. The salt in there makes it so it's like ionized air. Looks different and so forth, but they're directly analogous. But you can get around all the problems of high-speed flights. You can control lift, drag, heating, sonic boom production, radar profile, all those good things. If you got a plasma ionized air.
Now, did Mirabeau, was Mirabeau?
Leak Mirabeau.
Was he one that worked on this?
No, but I knew him. He did some interesting work. It's been a long time since I've heard his name, but that was a long time ago.
Yeah, Ray Stanford talked about a similarity between an object he saw and what Mirabeau was actually working on.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, it was very interesting. So I just want to clear a couple of things with the people
Here we
listening
go.
tonight. Already we're getting a whole bunch of nice messages in the on the message board. 45 minutes or so into the show,
Yeah, I'm here.
we're going to have calls. People can call in and wish Stan well.
I'll just try to
and,
find the bit where he sort
and
of
thank him
slips
for
up.
his great work over all these years. And when we get to that time, I will announce it, and also just basically how to call in. I'll tell you how to do that when that time comes. So Stan, this your career you had, I imagine if you stuck with your career, you could have made a heck of a lot of money.
If I've been able to find jobs using my weird talents, I suppose, but I was never in it for the money. I mean, I worked my way through 5 years of college. I was a busboy in the Catskill Mountains, would you
Wow.
believe, for
Is
a
that
couple
right?
of summers.
Wow.
There was a waiter at a hotel in Chicago. I was going to the University of Chicago.
Wow.
And I worked every weekend, all the holidays, it was interesting. I learned a lot about people as well as about food.
Yeah, you're right. I've waited tables. I know what you mean. Yeah.
Well, my mother kept a kosher home.
Uh-huh.
So I'd never seen a lobster before I worked up there, for example, and a lot of other esoteric, seeming to me, food. So the point is, I did work my way through school, and I wanted to work on exciting programs once I started at GE, and it was exciting. And exotic materials, I'd never heard of beryllium and beryllium oxide, boron carbide, and lithium hydride. You know, where'd all this stuff come from? They weren't teaching me about that at the university, that's for sure. I was in radiation shielding.
Oh.
And so you got problems. They operate at high temperatures. You worry about weight because you're going to put them in an aircraft to begin with, and then in a space system and other things. You know, and it shocks people when I tell them what I told you earlier, that the aircraft nuclear propulsion program at General Electric, 1956 to 1959, I worked. Our budget in 1958 was $100 million.
Amazing.
And
What
we
that
had
would transfer
3,400 people, and 1,100 of them were engineers and scientists working on aircraft nuclear propulsion.
So he's repeating himself.
So this wasn't a few professors sitting around a table jabbering about how nice it would be, you know. We never successfully, we operated jet engines on nuclear power.
Really?
Oh, yes, but not in an airplane.
I don't understand, you know, the Ventura and all that. How did, well, we won't want to get too techy here, but I'd like to ask you after the show how that worked. But
Well, it's very straightforward. You take cold air in, normal air, and heat it in the reactor and kick it out through the turbine.
it's heated air. Amazing.
Yeah, I mean, the air's all over where you're flying anyway,
Yeah.
so that's handy. No, the nuclear rocket had used liquid hydrogen as a propellant, which is a wholly different animal, but is the lowest atomic number element, the lightest weight for the
I'm still
cubic
trying to
foot of
see the bit
propellant,
where he
you know.
slips up.
And one nice thing about hydrogen, it's
Unless
all
I've
over
missed
the
it.
place.
Right.
There's no shortage of it, you know.
Yeah. And the moon has hydrogen-3, right?
Helium.
They're supposed to-
It probably
that's what it
does.
is, yeah.
I don't know. That's a good question.
Now, Stan, well, I guess what I was getting at when I said you could have made a lot of money, if you stuck with this particular career, do you have any regrets
that's very good.
doing what you've done?
No. No. I go with the flow, to use an
It screws up
aerospace
here
analogy. I find challenges everywhere, and everything I worked on wasn't dumb routine. I mean, the aircraft nuclear propulsion system is not routine. And I worked on spacecraft compact nuclear reactors, able to produce a lot of electricity, you know, to operate other systems. It's exciting. It was different.
No, but I mean, do you have any regrets going into the UFO field from your
No,
career?
because, well, I had a crossover period, remember. I read my first book in 1958, gave my first lecture in 1967, and went full-time in like 79, 80.
So what made you decide to go full-time?
I needed a job. I had a family to support. It was very straightforward.
There you go.
I thought I was going to have the keenest job I would ever have wished for. I was hired by McDonnell Douglas, and my job would be to figure out how flying saucers worked.
Yeah.
Now that was a challenge and exciting, and it was a shock when I'm driving across the country and heard that the program I was going to work on had been canceled out of the blue, so to speak, literally. So, but I'd already given lectures. I've been lecturing for more than 10 years. So I enjoyed, I'm a ham. It's not kosher, but I'm a ham. I like being on the stage.
Yeah.
And I've enjoyed, it may sound strange. Some people, a lot of people suggested, especially early on, that, boy, you must get a hard time from people. Well, I don't. I have a question and answer period after every lecture, more than 700 lectures so far.
I bet. Yeah.
And I've had 11 hecklers, and 2 of them were drunk.
Yeah.
But you're going to get that many if you talk about anything. You know, there's no shortage of them. And, you know, what I've found, the first year I was out full time, so to speak, I was worried. I was speaking to American Institute of Aeronautics and Astronautics sections, technical groups, Engineering Society of Cincinnati, Engineering Society of Detroit. These are pros. So you got to be careful what you say. You know, they won't put up with garbage. Mm-hmm. And they responded extremely well. So I was delighted at the response. And, you know, a typical example, Gulf Research Labs, technical people.
I think we may have gone past
and
that.
I spoke, and the first question was, well, I'm sure one could come to other conclusions than the ones you've come to. And I said, well, as I recall now, I talked about 5 large-scale scientific studies, and I asked how many had read each one, sneaky, and you hadn't read.
So I did we miss a bit? I must have missed a bit with all the beeping going on. Let's see.
I don't know, but definitely put the link to this down on the side. I want to watch this. This is an interesting insight.
There's a bit there. He said for the first time he was going to work on a real project, you know, after saying he worked 14 years in industry. Now, did I miss it?
Right.
Well,
you know, he did talk about it. He said he found out that the project had been canceled as he was driving across the country to go to that job.
No, but he said this is the first time he's going to work on a real project, which kind of suggests what were all the other projects that he was working on. What's here somewhere?
Well, okay, I thought he said a real project that actually interested him.
Let's see.
I may have misheard that.
No.
But it was something like it. The job excited him. Finally, it was something he really could sink his teeth into.
Here you go.
Canceled.
So here is a chance to put all the work to use. See that? Here's a chance to put it all to use. Like, what did he do before if he wasn't putting it to use? You see what I mean? Right. I'll just bring that back up here. So it's at between 6 minutes and 7 minutes. Let's see.
Laboratory, which I was going to be working under.
Listen.
Got canceled. As I'm driving across the country, and I walk in, nothing like being greeted with.
This is fascinating.
Stuff, you know, I had an offer and all
that.
You know, we just laid off 5,000 people.
Wow, that's the job you just took.
The job I just took. Yeah, they kept me for 3 months. I could do whatever I wanted.
Wow. Well, at least you didn't get it by a Twitter.
I caught the helium 3 on the moon and stuff.
It was, you know, I really was looking forward to it because I've been working for 14 years in industry. And so here's a chance to put it all the work to use, so to speak. And I was interested in the zipping around in the air.
So there you go, so to speak. Put it all to use, so to speak. What's that mean? So what was he doing for 14 years? Was he like a laboratory assistant? So he's talking about 4,000 people. He's talking about thousands of people being hired on these projects. You know how they compartmentalize. So no one knows exactly what they're working on. I can't see the way he talks about the engines that he worked on. That is there. You can see him with the goggles on, pushing the button to launch the engine and all that. So anyway, that's my point. I think he slipped up this first time that I could put it all together. Yeah, maybe his last job, and he worked 3 months, not 2 weeks. I got that part wrong. But this is what this is the interview that I was referring to anyway. You just got to sort of analyze what people are saying to see if there's any BS happening, you know. Is he exaggerating things? his work history. Sure, he knows his stuff, and what he's saying is obviously all correct about ionizing radiation and all that sort of stuff. But anyway, I got some other stuff. So the link's posted there if people want to go and read the full, watch it again, and listen carefully to what he's saying. But you see, they repeated several times the same thing. He already said about the megawatts and how many people were working there and all that sort of stuff. Now, this is what you get with Stanton. Pretty much every presentation I've seen, he repeats the same things. And he likes to talk about his work history, like was an important player and stuff. So what happened to all these nuclear engines then that he worked on? Why haven't we seen them in planes nowadays? So I did the search on all that sort of stuff, which I will talk about now. I don't want to break copyright here, but that's actually a good listen. We only listened to probably 7 minutes of it or something like that, and talked over it, of course. Hopefully, Martin Willis is okay with us. So I'm not trying to debunk Stanton. I'm just saying maybe he exaggerates things, and he does make mistakes. So whereabouts was it? So where are the nuclear power plants? So I started finding these links here, which is quite interesting. And as you can see, there's quite a lot of reading again. So basically, they want to get away from crude oil, which they call fossil fuels still in this article. And we've talked about whether crude oil is actually made from microorganisms or not, and whether the earth actually produces it from all the compression and the carbon in the rock, or whether there's actually microbes underground even that are always producing oil underground and not decayed forests that make coal and swampy stuff where it's sort of made into stuff at the bottom of the sea from microbes where that starts to decay organic matter into oil. So, which is basically how oil is made. So to do with carbon. So unfortunately, the transition away from fossil fuels has been more than difficult. We know this. We've got the global warming thing that's going on at the moment. In addition, the power requirement to operate a car is far less than required to lift an airplane off the ground, obviously. While a typical car provides around 100 to 300 horsepower, a single Boeing 77 jet delivers 110,000 horsepower, or 820 megawatts. Now, he was talking how many megawatts in his nuclear tests?
Oh God,
he said
I don't remember now, but it was a pretty high number.
I think it was 100 megawatts, wasn't it? It's only 1/8.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was megawatts.
Yeah, it was only 1/8 of that value, though, wasn't it?
Yeah, so that's right. I think it was talking like 11 megawatts.
So was that 100 megawatts turned into 800 about to fly a 747 off the ground? So let's carry on. So yeah, so he was working 2 years on this project, which ain't very long at all. Scientists spend 10, 20 years on a particular project. It might be fusion power, right? How many years do these people work on it? Certainly more than 2 years, 20 years, some of them. So yeah, I think he's exaggerating a lot how he talks about his past. It's like me coming on my live show every time and saying, I'm a computer scientist, which I am. I've got 2 degrees, which I do have, and I've proven it in previous lives. I'll show you my qualifications. And as a kid, I mucked around with artificial intelligence on 8-bit micros, and I have proven that as well, because I've got a program where it emulates the 8-bit micro, and I load my program up and show you it working on one of the live streams. So I've actually proven that I was doing it. It wasn't top secret though, and because Stanton Friedman always uses that term that he's got top secret clearance. So obviously that sort of says you can't say too much about it. So how would a nuclear plane work? A standard jet engine functions as follows. First, air from the atmosphere is compressed to increase the concentration of O2 for combustion. Probably wonder if I can get it to read out rather than me scrolling around. There's quite a lot of talk in there though, isn't it? So let's just find out how it works anyway.
A standard jet engine functions as follows. First, air from the atmosphere is compressed to increase the concentration of O2 for combustion. Second, the air is combusted with heavy organics, i.e., jet fuel, to generate heat and pressure. And third, the high-energy gas mixture expands out the back of the engine, generating thrust per Newton's third law. A nuclear-powered engine would work the same way, except the air would not be heated by combustion but via heat exchange with a nuclear fission reactor. Two designs for this engine were proposed during the United States Aircraft Nuclear Propulsion (ANP) program in the 50s, which was created to develop bombers that could fly to the Soviet Union and back without refueling. For the first design, direct air cycle, the atmospheric air would pass directly through the reactor core for heating. For the second design, indirect air cycle, which was pursued to minimize radioactive pollution, the reactor core would first heat up a liquid metal or pressurized liquid. This fluid would, in turn, heat the air, thereby creating a degree of separation between the nuclear reaction and the atmosphere. In both cases, a molten salt reactor was to be used because of its high operating temperature and unique safety features.
So yeah, so two engine designs were made there, it's saying. One obviously produced a lot of pollution of radioactive particles at the back end of it, and the other one had obviously less thrust available and probably didn't work enough power to it to be able to lift up a big plane. So let's just carry on here. Where are the nuclear planes? So it talks about abandoned in 1961, and Stanton Friedman said he started with that company in 1959. So that's the 2 years there. So what did he do in it? I don't know, but obviously he didn't come up with any solutions or ideas that made it practical where it wasn't going to kill the pilots or the passengers or whatever from the radiation. I suppose you could use it on a drone where you don't have to worry about that sort of thing. It's not going to kill the people inside. And you could use it in space, space drones or spaceship that have their own CPUs.
The ANP was abandoned in 1961. While this was primarily because of the development of intercontinental ballistic missiles, ICBMs, several serious technical concerns remained through its termination. First and foremost, despite the large quantity of energy contained in nuclear fuels, a nuclear-powered engine capable of delivering the power density necessary to fly a large aircraft has yet to be successfully designed. Until that happens, any discussion of a future with nuclear-powered aircrafts is purely speculation. In addition, due to the close quarters of an aircraft, the crew could be exposed to radiation from the nuclear reactor. Because thick lead shielding would be too heavy, a distributed shielding method was being developed at the time of the ANP to eliminate specific radioactive particles. Of course, to commercialize a nuclear-powered passenger plane, This technology would need to be engineered to perfection to avoid any radiation poisoning. And finally, the event of a crash could be catastrophic for a nuclear aircraft. Extensive testing would be required to ensure that, in the event of a crash, the radioactive materials would be contained.
So that's quite interesting there. So obviously it was an idea that wasn't really practical. So they're saying here that it was trying to be revived again.
While there have been recent attempts to revive the nuclear-powered airplane, the field remains underdeveloped. 6. Assuming the aforementioned power density and safety hurdles can be overcome, however, nuclear energy can potentially service the transportation industry in the form of environmentally friendly aircrafts with extraordinarily high performances.
So that's pretty much the article there. And here's picture of a B-50, is it? B-52? What's it say there? On September 1955, the Convar MB-36H was the first aircraft to fly with a nuclear reactor operating on board. Okay, so the Russians also were working on stuff, and they actually did have, believe it or not, planes that could fly non-stop all the time using nuclear as well as missiles. It's kind of scary. So that was back in the 50s, 70s, is it? So obviously they had technology back then, but as you read, the Russians test pilots all died in the planes. But are they still using it today? They may be using it now with pilotless aircraft, of course, that can do these amazing, crazy speeds that we talked about initially on the start of this episode, to the stars and all that, and the new paperwork that's happening. So I'll post that link there. So that's the first one I found, nuke planes. So Stanton Friedman was saying it was successful, but from reading here, it wasn't. And this is written in 2008. So is that exaggeration? Sounds like it. Close tab. Okay, so here's another one. How could the small nuclear reactor power 2 jet engines? And obviously it's on a physics group. In the 1950s, the USA was working on aircraft nuclear propulsion, and it stated that they were successfully operated 2 modified General Electric jet engines, which is what Stanton Friedman was saying, using a 2.5 megawatt thermal nuclear reactor. That sounds pretty scary, doesn't it? Now, looking at the specification of the J-47 jet engines, it has clearly stated that the specific fuel consumption in 103.36 kg/kn/an hour, and since these engines they used had 23 kN of thrust, I calculated the fuel consumption of these engines is 0.66 kilograms per second, and since the specific energy of the fuel is about 42 mJ per kilogram, then the engine requires a power of 27.72 megawatts to operate. So that's more than the 3 megawatts that I mentioned up here. So my question here is, how could this relatively small nuclear reactor power 2 jet engines? Well, obviously it didn't. So this person's saying, I haven't looked for your mistake, but your numbers don't make sense. The max thrust of the biggest modern turbofan engines is around 100,000 lbf, and their maximum output is around 50 megawatts, which is even bigger than 3. Your 6,000 thrust can't possibly need 28 megawatts unless GE don't know how to design jet engines. So anyway, here's the answers down here. How could a small nuclear-powered 2 jet engines? The answer is it couldn't, and was never even utilized in that way. So the nuclear-powered bomber concept, first thought of in the 1950s, had 2 major problems to contend with, neither of which were solved. The first was how to harness the nuclear power, either directly as propulsion unit or indirectly using a heat exchanger. And the second was how to protect the crew, either by directly shielding the reactor, which made the craft unstable to fly. Of course, lead is very heavy, due to the concentration of weight, or by the distributed shielding, which was not as effective but spread the weight around the craft in a more balanced fashion. So all the weight would be in one place in the plane where the nuclear reactor was, obviously furthest away from the people. You can see these ones are big planes here. The B-36 shielding test aircraft, accompanied by an aircraft with a cleanup crew in case the B-36 crashed. Great. So you can see they're flying over fields, farmers' fields here. So you could imagine that coming down and polluting the fields with radiation. Cleanup crew. Is that what happened at Roswell, perhaps? Maybe a nuclear craft crashed and they had to cover it up? What do you think on that one, John? I think he's gone.
Actually, that's a fascinating avenue of thought to go down. I like it.
Yeah, so this is why I'm bringing all this into the subject, You go off in all different directions when you find more information out. So on September 1951, the Conva was formally granted a contract to construct, or rather convert, one of their B-36 aircraft to enable it to carry out the testing of a reactor. But didn't Stanton Friedman say they designed the engines, but they never put them in the aircraft? So,
correct.
So this is saying they modified the aircraft to testing the reactor and the shielding associated with it. So did they put the reactor in it? They must have done, surely. So they put a reactor in it, but they didn't actually test it powering jet engines, is what Stanton was maybe referring to.
Could be, yeah, because those are just props. Those are props, definitely. And the old J-47s, my God, those weren't even bypass fan jets. Those were really inefficient.
Yeah.
But they screamed. They did the job.
To illustrate how stupidly ridiculous this idea was, every test flight of the B-36 had to have a troop-carrying aircraft flying behind it in case the B-36 crashed. The soldiers could then attempt to clean up the nuclear waste. 2 methods of nuclear propulsion were proposed. The first was the indirect cycle, which was designed to heat up the incoming air, which is what Stanton was just talking about, by the use of hot air from the reactor. And the second was the indirect cycle engine, which simply used atmospheric air as a working fluid and ignored the environmental effects of exhausting nuclear waste straight out the engine. So here's a diagram of a nuclear reactor. All this lead shielding, which is obviously going to be massively heavy. Pump to pump air through. Air compressor. Just trying to figure out what they're doing here. Coolant to air, heat exchanger. So obviously this is like a simple block diagram, really, isn't it? And here's a picture of it, or is it? On one early design of indirect nuclear propulsion power plant. So this is indirect, is it? Diagram of liquid metal nuclear powered turbojet. So that was heating up the air and thrusting it out the back. As you know, you've got energy, so you're pushing it out the back is obviously going to push you forward. So that's the indirect ones. Look how crazy that looks. So there's the big nuclear reactor here with the liquid going through, heating up the air for the 2 jet engines. Obviously, these would have to go out to the side of the wings. So this would be like on a test platform and not actually, you can see that wouldn't fit into an aircraft to make it practical to fly. So Stanton obviously was correct there, saying that they never tested it in the plane, just the reactor, to see how the shielding would work, I guess. This was the only known airborne reactor experiment by the US with the operational nuclear reactor on board. The NTA flew a total of 47 times testing the reactor over West Texas. That could explain a few things. In southern New Mexico. The reactor, named the Aircraft Shield Test Reactor, was operational but did not power the plane. Rather, the primary purpose of the flight program was shield testing based on results of the NTA and X6. We talked about X-planes in the last live stream. And the entire nuclear aircraft program was abandoned in 1961, which we've heard so many times now. In reality, because this was part of the Cold War, I would tend to display claims such as any power outputs quoted. So, Stanton Friedman was quoting a lot of stuff, wasn't he? These guys are skeptical. Trying to get that right. The Soviet program of nuclear aircraft developed resulted in the experimental Tupolev Tu-119 or the Tu-95LAL Flying Nuclear Laboratory. Sounds crazy, doesn't it? Sounds like something from Thunderbirds again, which derived from the Tupolev Tu-95 bomber. It had a conventional turboprop engine and onboard nuclear reactor. Let's see. And it actually turns out that the Soviets were prepared to risk pilots who volunteered to endeavor the
inevitable
radiation hazards, and the Soviets used little or no shielding to save weight during these 40 test flights.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, and used direct cycle.
They set him up to die.
Yep.
Sorry.
Yep, they did. They used direct cycle nuclear reactors. Most of the crew died through radiation-induced illness. The obvious potential.
No kidding.
The obvious potential of the ICBM made the expensive program superfluous, allied with the fact that these slow bombers were easily targets for surface-to-air missiles. And around mid-1960, both countries cancelled their projects. So obviously the US and Russians were spying on each other, seeing what they're up to, and both were trying to develop the same thing. But I heard from a mate that they have actually got operational planes and missiles that can stay up for years on nuclear power. So obviously they didn't abandon it completely. And whether they're drones, I don't know that he's talking about, but it does sound kind of like it might be. So that could also fit into the To the Stars and Tic Tac UFO that we've been talking about as well. So have they got a nuclear super fast drone that can beat the crap out of US fighter jets, F-14s, whatever it is they use, or F-18s, is it? I think it is. Thanks for the answer. There is one more thing I want to add, though. It seems that the 2.5 megawatt reactor was just a scaled down reactor used just for testing. The photo of the direct method you gave above used the HTRE3 reactor, which according to this, which I got a PDF there, could operate a 34 megawatts, almost the HTRE1, which was used to power a single J47 engine, is stated to have power of 15,000 1500 BTU, which is about 16 megawatts. So that's half the size of the other one. But as you said, these reactors were never used on the aircraft, but things made sense now. So there you go. That's quite an interesting little article there. Sums it up pretty good. So Martin Willens, you just had to use Google and find the same links I did when he was asking him. He doesn't understand how it worked. Well, now you do. Now we know how it works. Obviously, they weren't going to do the second type where it put radiation straight out the back, so they focused on the heat exchange part engine instead for motors, and they couldn't get it to work still. And of course, obviously, the radiation was still too big coming from the reactor, and the heavy weights for they use lead for shielding. So more on nuke planes. So who's watching? Anyone out there that want to add stuff? Have we got Renee for this? No, just us two, is it? So that was that one. Which one was it now? That one there, I think. Looks like it's sort of sunken in. So I'm just seeing if I can recognize. It's a bit hard to see. So I found this other article that this came out last year, middle of last year, which I must have missed. Boeing just patented a jet engine powered by lasers and nuclear explosions. There you go. And there's a picture of it here. Let's see if I can zoom in. Which is a wee bit different to the nuclear reactor idea. So 2 lasers aim at some obviously nuclear material, causes a little explosion. So does that get rid of the radiation? I don't know. So let's see, is it a patent that they could use in space maybe? But that looks like it's sucking in air again, doesn't it? So it needs the airflow coming in and out the back, rather than it being like a energy flow out the back to push it through space.
Correct.
See, to me, a nuclear reactor that powers ion engines makes more sense for UFOs as well as space travel. You want something that's generating endless amounts of megawatts power that you then drive using electricity rather than radioactive materials and stuff. You know, you want that to be inside a fuel cell that lasts 10 years or whatever, and you change the cell out. Because stuff is decaying all the time, right? You got half-lives and all that, so it's always decaying. So it's always giving off energy. So what does it say here? I might just get it to read out actually. Have a break. It's not too much there, I don't think.
Last week, the United States Patent and Trademark Office approved an application from Boeing's Robert Buddekat, James Herzberg, and Frank Chandler for a laser and nuclear-driven airplane engine. With airplane makers constantly on the lookout for new and more efficient way to power their products, this laser engine is the latest idea cooked up by the engineers at Boeing. Modern airliners such as the Boeing Dreamliner are powered by multiple turbofan engines. These engines deploy a series of fans and turbines to compress air and ignite fuel to produce thrust. Boeing's newly patented engine provides thrust in a very different and rather novel manner. According to the patent filing, the laser engine may also be used to power rockets, missiles, and even spacecraft. As of now, the engine lives only in patent documents. The technology is so out there that it's unclear if anyone will ever build it.
So it didn't actually say too much how it works. So they reckon it could be used in space. But that looks like a conventional inlet and outlet at the back here.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
So it needs atmosphere. That design there.
Mm.
Surely that would create radiation out the back though. Nuclear fusion. They're saying it's nuclear fusion. So nuclear fusion doesn't actually cause radiation. It's only fission that causes radiation. Fusion is what the sun uses. Combines elements together. Obviously, hydrogen to helium, and releases a lot of energy in the process. And this is basically same as that fusion reactor idea, wasn't it? Where they're using a whole bank of lasers to ignite heavy HE3, helium-3 or something like that. I think I did cover some of it before, which they reckon they might have working by 2025. Hopefully they do, and that'll solve all the problem of global warming. Because if you got fusion power, right, that means you could easily create massive ozone generators that sends ozone into the air that kills all the carbon molecules and all that sort of stuff. You could do all sorts of crazy stuff. In fact, I don't even know why they don't do that. Why didn't they build these sea generators that the Australians have built, where it bounces up and down with the waves, constantly generating 10 megawatts? How much iron?
I think that's brilliant, by the way. Yes, I looked at that technology you guys did. I'm like, that's brilliant.
Yeah, the Australian wave generators is really clever. Plus, as it's pushing the water through the turbines to power the generators, there's actually posting pushing the liquid through pipe, which has got filters in that takes out all the salt, and they get clean water as well. So they can put
desalinators. Yes, I know. I'm like, oh my god, this is brilliant.
So they could put it off any place that's got hardly any rain whatsoever, and run it off the coast and the sea, because water in the sea is endless so far. And so they could spray it on the fields and grow crops. So I think you need that kind of thinking.
California could take note of that.
Well, I think the US government could be looking into that sort of stuff too. They should be funding trillions of dollars into it, maybe.
I agree.
But I think what happens is, looks like we can't post that link either. It's too long. I just hate that, how you got limitation on comment size. If you host a show, you shouldn't have a limit size. You should be able to post any size link you want. So yeah, Google, listen. Okay, so let's close that one down. That wasn't the one, was it? So what did I just close down? I probably closed one of my important links. That one there. Probably closed one of my good links, probably. Let's see.
That was one you already used.
It was one on balloons, I think. It doesn't matter. Oh yeah, Stanton Friedman still. A couple of links here on him. Stanton Friedman is a big fraud, so not everyone's too happy with him, obviously. I don't know if you ever heard where the man apparently got his nuclear physics degree, but ask him sometime. The man inflames me every time. GN with this, or anyone else takes him seriously. So that's what we just discussed too, wasn't it? I don't think your post really proves he's a fraud, but rather that you don't like him. Mind you, I don't care one way or the other. If you have some information out there, so where he got his degree, if you know. So people were trying to investigate. When was this? 2007. Okay. My point exactly. As far as I know, it does not exist. But if anyone can prove it to me, feel free to go ahead. This is what I'm asking too. Has anyone out there got information on Stanton Friedman?
Right.
No, it's like saying I worked at university and I studied how to clone monkeys, and it's top secret, so there's no evidence about it, and that's it. You either believe me or you don't. That's pretty rough assessment to be thrown out there without any sort of evidence, being as hell not many of us are likely to meet him. Do you plan on posting some kind of backup for your views, or are you just randomly slandering him? So, Google is your friend. So again, this is from the Wikipedia, is it? Yeah, it looks like it. Talking about stuff, is it? Stanton Friedman spent 2 years at Reuters University in New Brunswick, New Jersey, before switching to the University of Chicago in 1953. Why did he switch universities? He received BS and MS degrees in physics, so he wasn't a PhD then. I suppose they would call him Dr. Stanton all the time, otherwise, wouldn't they? In 1955 and 1956, where Carl Sagan was a classmate. So he knew Carl Sagan. He worked for 14 years as a nuclear physicist. You heard all that. Companies are General Electric. But what did he do? Did he clean the floors like Bob Lazar? Just joking.
You're so mean.
I'm just joking. But you just got to question everything. Also, so-called leaks are intentionally misinformation projects designed to promote the alien threat scenario. So that one goes on a bit there. But have we seen any printouts of his qualifications? You know, screen snapshots. So,
Nothing.
So obviously science checked him out and stuff. Obviously, it would be big news that they found that he was lying about his qualifications like Bob Lazar was, you know. So it's kind of ironic, you know, if it did happen that way. That's your proof. Bill Cooper's website, so that's where you got the information from about his degree. Stanton is probably the most respected and credible, detailed ufologist. Credentialed. How do you say that word?
Yeah, credentialed. Yeah.
Yeah, credentialed ufologist we have fighting for us today. It seems that literally any ufologist's integrity and credentials can come under attack nowadays. Stanton is a good guy and a heck of a smart dude. Looks to me like this Bill Cooper character is the real CIA operative. The op clearly has no idea what the hell he's talking about, no better than the troll or hoaxer. Nah, he's no fraud. He's a good guy. Well, I know people probably know him personally, and he's probably showed him paperworks, and they've seen his degrees on the wall or something, you know. So, but people are questioning it because they haven't seen it publicly. Maybe someone needs to do a documentary about Stanton Friedman and actually show this evidence. And if he's got any old footage that may be declassified now, surely it would be by now, wouldn't it? How many years are we talking about? 50s, 60s to now? So 70 years? How long does stuff stay classified on the nuclear program?
Good question.
Well, we just read out stuff about the design of the engine and all that, so all that must have been declassified. There must be some film footage of the experiments happening. They must have filmed everything, surely. But what did they have back in the 60s? They didn't have like VHS tapes or mini DAT tapes or whatever you call them. They would have had 16 millimeters, same as what they used on the moon landings.
Yeah.
8 millimeters, 16 millimeters, which is actually high definition. It's actually better than a high definition. It's actually equivalent to 4K that we use now. The information on those old films is 4K of information per frame. So they can re-digitize that into 4K video, which is quite interesting. I've covered that in previous lives as well.
Of course you have.
Yeah. I just don't like to sound like I'm repeating myself over and over again, because we get newcomers come along and they haven't heard it, or they've never bothered going back through the old live shows because they ain't got the time.
I'm not saying a word.
Well, you're one of those people. Anyway.
Not saying a word.
So, thoughts I read it all here, skeptics, but perhaps not. Going back 20 years after ufology originators such as Major Keyhole, James E. McDonald, and Alan Hynek, Stanton Friedman was one of the first to cross the ground saying flying saucers are real and information about them is being repressed. Repressed? Is that a word? Suppressed, I think they mean, don't they? By the government.
Yes, repressed by the government.
Repressed or suppressed? I thought it was suppressed. Pushed under.
No, repressed.
Really?
Repressed, suppressed, same thing. Either or.
Oh, well, let's see. Let's ask Google what it means.
Semantics, really. They both mean essentially the same thing. They come to the same result.
Restrain or oppress. Characterized by the repression of thoughts. So we got depression and suppress. Okay, so that sort of clears that up. So what else we got here? Anything useful that might... Well, that's your opinion, but can you explain a bit more how you think this conclusion? Well, I don't think he's a fraud. I think maybe he just exaggerates things. And obviously we just checked out the nuclear plane engine and what he said actually checks out, but not all of it. Like the outputs and all that stuff he was talking about. I think he mentioned 100 megawatts, and they're talking about 28 megawatts and all that sort of stuff. So, yeah. Maybe they were testing something even bigger, but realized it couldn't work in a plane. Maybe, I don't know. But, you know, all the things he's talked, you think all the information would be out there that he knows about it. And you compare it to what's actually been released or declassified to see if it all checks out. Or is his memory just getting bad because he's getting older, like mine? So, yeah, it does happen, I guess. He's witty, humorous, and just plain fun. As a psychologist, I find him exceedingly authentic, honest, and candid, grounded, balanced. Yeah. So they go on a bit here. So people are asking questions. So I think really there should be something done on Stanton before he dies, of course. Of course, people will probably bring out stuff right after he dies, probably. Let's see. Is there a biographical movie? Biographical movie on Stanton. There might be something out there. Okay. Harry Dean Stanton. Who's that? Totally fiction. Stanton Friedman.
He's an actor. He's an actor.
Yeah.
It's Stanton T for Tom Friedman.
Here we go. Stanton Friedman is real. So we have got a movie about him. But does it show any of his work history? That's the question. Biographical look at Stanton Friedman, who for the past 40 years has been the world's foremost investigator and lecturer on UFO phenomenon. So maybe it focuses more on the UFO side of things and not his work history before then. So have we got any screen snapshots from it? Any work photographs? That's a good question. How can we see if there's any pictures there?
Yeah, definitely pop that down on the side. I'll research that. The halfways.
Boy, now I think I may have seen that years ago. I've forgotten about it until I read that title. So maybe I've got it on my drive here. and maybe I can skim it again. Back
You mean
then,
maybe
back
you
in
might
those
have
days,
access to it?
yeah, back in those days, I didn't pay too much attention to all the talking heads because I realized that TV shows essentialize everything, and yeah, I really only got into the UFO side of things when I started my own UFO channel. I sort of watched UFO documentaries. I thought, wow, but now when I look over the same documentaries, I think, that one's a fake. Oh, that one's a balloon. That one's a lens flare or whatever, you know. Even recently, they had Fox News talking to someone. Who was it now? Talking about this Pentagon program. I think it was on Tyler's one. And you can see they're putting up that footage of the plane contrail. Let's see. We'll go to his website and have a look. I'll just bring it up quickly. Security. He used a clip from Fox News, which saved him having to actually do a full video on it. He spent most of it just playing the Fox News clip. Might need to pause that. Just get rid of the sound. But I just want to show you, he's got the Fox News clip up here. So, oh yeah, that's the other thing that was quite funny that came out on this. He posted a couple of tweets on Corbell, said that he was a CIA agent, and it all backfired. Obviously, Corbell didn't think it was very funny, especially since he's got so many followers. So here he's sucking back up to Corbell, saying it was just a joke. So yeah.
Ooh, he poked the bear.
He poked the hairy man, the bearded fellow.
Yes, he did.
Now, what's his tattoos he's got on his arm now?
It's all very special.
Has he actually got any alien or UFO tattoos? Because I don't think I've seen any on him.
Stanton does.
Stanton?
Oh, sure, all over his back and his butt and everything. Oh, sure.
You fibber. Okay, let's carry on. Just trying to.
Sorry.
Yeah, you shouldn't joke about that thing. So you have Robert on my back again, saying that's a lie. We do go by our poor aged brains here. Like I said, it's a live research thing, and we can only pull up some information that we remember seeing. And here's this interview, and you'll see they got this guy on, someone else out there. Yeah, I'm not sure if that's part of Fox News. Is it FBI's UFO case? Oh, he's put different news clips together. So where's the one with the latest stuff? Oh, here it is here, I think. Navy drafting new rules. Okay. And straight away, if I scroll up here, we got this one here. So I'll just play the little clip of it. Remember this one that we debunked? A female on a passenger filmed this strange black shape coming out of the clouds. Well, obviously it's another plane that's taken off, and it's at 30,000 feet where you get the contrails. And because of the time of the day, the sun's not lighting it up, so it looks black. Water trail. So why would they put up some rubbish like that for a UFO when they're talking about UFOs?
I have no idea.
All the good stuff out there that they could put up on a mainstream media on UFOs, and that's the crappy one they pick. And what's this one? Is it the same one, or is it a different video here? Are we focusing on this? A water droplet on the window? I'm not too sure what end there. I think it might have been the same video. So yeah, it goes on a bit, showing all these Fox News ones, as you can see, and then he adds his own stuff on the end. Pictures of stuff from movies, is it? Yeah, some various things he's put over the years of lights and stuff. City lights. What are we looking at here, guys? That looked a bit fake. Let's have a look at that one. What is this? What are we looking at? Lampshade?
Oh no, that's that thing.
Yeah.
No, that's some friggin' Carnival Cruise Lines out at sea.
Could it be the
All
front?
the lights around on the deck.
It's the front of a ship coming towards us, you reckon?
Yeah, that makes sense. Yep, that's even better. Thank you.
Let's see if we can zoom in on it. It's either that or reflection. Why is it not zooming? Well, it's a Photoshop, of course. Does look like a cabin of a ship, doesn't it? And it's one of those optical illusions where it's like above the sea.
Mm-hmm.
It's that certain distance above the horizon that we talked about, optical illusions and mirages. It's got that certain height to it, and it never goes any higher. So yeah, it looks like the front of a ship where you only, because of the horizon and because the curvature of the Earth and all that sort of stuff, you can't see the ship here. It's probably just behind the horizon here, and it's like projecting the image of the front of the ship up into the sky and towards the camera. So it's sort of bending around. So it's coming around the curvature here of the horizon, because we're not on a flat Earth, and we're seeing just the front of the ship. So that makes perfect sense. Anyway, and of course we've got these blimps that the submarines use for targeting. They're not UFOs. So we've been through all that. I think Black Vault even talks about it. So yeah, I don't want to spend too much time on security there, but I just wanted to show what the stupid mainstream media were putting up as UFO, when anyone watching that would know a contrail from a plane. So I thought I closed that sucker. What did I close down now? Okay. We were going to look at if there's any images. Did you find anything on that one?
Oh, and Stanton, I was gonna look up the movie later and take a little gander at it.
Coast to Coast, biography and interviews. Well, it's not going to be any good on Coast to Coast. We're not going to see any work photographs or pictures of his qualifications on a radio show, are we? So let's type that in there anyway, see what we can get. Any pictures from the show. Supposed to be able to search it first. Okay, so I guess these are from the movie. Yep, a lot of face pictures. They look a bit different back in the older days. What nationality would you say it was? German? Do he look German? I think he does. Friedman would be German name.
Friedman?
Friedman?
I have no idea.
It'd be called Friedman.
Oh, he's Jewish. I know that. Very
Jewish.
kosher.
So he's another one of these Jewish German Americans.
Yeah.
That's one thing I've noticed with Eastern people, that they're very good on mathematics and that sort of stuff. And Russians are actually really good coders. You can hire coders online called elance. So you've got an idea that you want for an app, you can hire these coders online, and they could be anywhere in the world. And a lot of them are from Ukraine and Russia, and they're really good at code and mathematics. Maybe, I don't know if Google hires those ones or they prefer to have Indians coders. I don't know, but definitely I could see even North Korea has some coders that are able to break in through lots of firewalls and people's websites and take them down. Sony was one of them, wasn't it? They claimed anyway. I would like to know if anyone's actually released any real information on that to WikiLeaks, because that's how you would really know the true facts of who was hacking what. But there was a show called what was it now? Cyber War, quite a good series. If you've not seen it, go and watch it. It's like 30-minute episodes talking about espionage and virus creation and hacking and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, we're trying to find any work photos where he's actually standing in front of one of these nuclear engines, or any certificates.
Good luck.
Any certificates or paperwork on him, pay slips. What do we got here? More photographs, but none work ones. So it looks to me like that movie might be more about his part in the UFO field rather than the nuclear field. But yeah, we've probably spent enough on Stanton. We've probably gone through most of our time already. But yeah, I think it needs to be talked about and discussed rather than just swept underneath the carpet. We should understand the people that are telling us the information, is my point I'm trying to make. So that's who? Catherine, is it? Catherine Martin? Who's that one? Kathleen, is it Kathleen Martin or something? Doesn't quite say there.
Kathleen Friedman.
No.
Kathleen Martin?
Yeah, Betty and Hill's niece.
Yeah.
Martin?
Martin Marsden, something like that.
Martin, Maden. Where's the picture? There we go. What's it say? Martin. See the name underneath? There you go. Well, she looks a bit different there, don't she? She's a bit older now. When was that photo taken? So anyway, Il from MUFON works with you now. The ERT stuff.
I have 2 of her books, actually.
Oh, right. So you should be an expert on her, and you should have known her name.
Well, I did. Like I said, it was Marsden or Marsden or something like that. I haven't touched on her for 4 years at least.
So you're really no good with dates and names like myself. Is basically what you're saying. Anyway, we still couldn't find any documentation. I might see if I got the video on my hard drive. I think it might be on YouTube somewhere now. Is it? 2002. It's probably been uploaded legally. Maybe I watched it from there or something. I think I might have done actually. UFO TV. Let's see. Maybe it was put up there and taken down since. So it looks like it might be up. Part 2. So I wonder if we could skim it without getting any copyright violation. Trailer. So obviously it's still being sold. See, by all means, go and check that out then. Go and check it out and have a watch. I won't play any now.
That would be wise.
So anyway, this is the other thing that I got, which I thought, yeah, that sounds very familiar. UFO investigator Stanton Friedman versus the internet. A lesson in how not to promote your product to anyone ever. So this is quite a funny article, actually. Apparently, he went to Reddit. Now, I'll just let's see if I can get that to read out while I get a drink.
Earlier this week, Stanton Friedman, widely known throughout ufology circles as one of the leading experts on unidentified spacecraft and their inhabitants, popped up on popular social news website reddit.com. He started an AMA, or Ask Me Anything, thread with the intent of addressing any questions the curious few might have about what it's like being what he calls a UFO physicist. As you can probably imagine from the fact that I'm even writing about it, this engagement did not go as planned. Now, before we continue on the journey into Friedman's internet nightmare, we need to explain what exactly Reddit is for the few that aren't familiar with it.
Oh God.
There you go. I told you it's quite an amusing article, actually. It's from 2007, I think. So he calls him the UFO physicist. There you go, because he's a nuclear physicist.
According to Alexa, Reddit is ranked as the 46th most popular website in the United States. It boasts an active user base that consists of over 8 million people, made up of mostly of college-level males, all of them contributing to the ultimate purpose of the website, rating content. The whole idea behind Reddit is about submitting new, unique content to the website, be it in the form of news, videos, images, even jokes. That content is then voted on by the users, who can choose to upvote or downvote your submission. A link with a higher number of upvotes is usually pushed to the front page for millions to read, while particularly poor posts end up buried in a mountain of downvotes, banished to the recesses of Reddit, only to be read by a few.
Gee, now who else does that?
Yeah. Hoaxes. Yeah. Let's see, do we need to read it? Hang on. To help you balance.
Nah, this is garbage.
No, it's actually, it tells more what happened. Advertisement.
Okay.
Let's see. So this is what he posted on Reddit. Anyway, we'll get that to read out. Should we try and get Mick West to read it out, maybe? No, we'll just stick with American.
I am a flying saucer physicist and lecturer. Since 1967 I have appeared before the UN twice, testified before Congress, and lectured about the UFO phenomenon at more than 600 colleges and 100 professional groups in the United States, Canada, and 18 other countries. The United States government told us that Apollo 17 had to be the last Apollo mission because there was no budget for an Apollo 18. What you might not know is that both Apollo 18 and Apollo 19 were paid for and astronauts trained. Was Apollo 18 secretly launched? I worked on several top-secret programs and can address this and other issues relating to black budgets and hidden programs.
So it sounds all good, but he's self-promoting again. So it started off good, as they're saying here. Then he started saying to people, instead of actually answering, he said, "Oh, you can go and buy my book, such and such, and read chapter 1, and it tells you." Okay, just
Ooh, bad.
bad.
A good start. People are interested. Lots of questions start rolling in. The first, and arguably most logical question to be asked is simply, if you had a paragraph to provide a convincing argument that flying saucers exist, what would you say? The response was, not what anyone expected. Read the first chapter of my 2008 book, Flying Saucers and Science, which reviews 6 large-scale scientific studies which fewer than 2% of the attendees at my more than 700 lectures have read.
Big mistake. I told you it was funny. So what does he do now?
Slob.
Robots, it went wrong there. Let's see. Chapter covers Cosmic Watergate. Good start. First read a chapter of my book. Maybe the question. So we've got these things on the side, they're in the way. Let's see if I can get it up there. I think I got it.
Okay, maybe the question is more complex than can be answered in a single paragraph. We can give that one to him. What about a question regarding the nature of government cover-ups? Chapter 4, 26 pages, covers the Cosmic Watergate. There are many top secret CIA UFO documents on which one can read several words. Everything else is blacked out. HMM. That doesn't really help much. Well, maybe for the sake of people without immediate access to his books, he could provide a quick summary of the information. Surely that can't be too much to ask. In an Ask Me Anything thread.
I think it's funny, especially the guy reading.
Well, I
it.
tend to agree. I agree.
Yeah, I agree with the article too.
Poor Stan.
Ask me anything. Oh yes, go and read my book. It's funny as hell.
Stanton. You tried to do it on the cheap.
You
and
expect
quick and
me
dirty.
to condense
Oh,
a 25-page chapter into 2 paragraphs. How
love it.
ridiculous. As you can imagine, things did not end up going very well from this point out. What had initially been a thread that began with plenty of upvotes, it was buried at 0 within the next 4 hours.
That is hilarious. So
You
his
are
answer,
enjoying this way too much.
he said, I can't summarize 25 pages in a book to 2 paragraphs.
Well, he kind of has a point there too, but it's like, oh, it's
Not a good thing
from
to.
a bone.
Yeah, so he obviously hasn't been on live chats where people can come on and ask things on the side and try to answer it. But yes. So is there any more that we need to read there? But it's funny. There is a lesson. Here we go. We need the lesson. It's not going to select it. BR. Come on. Last bit on Stanton.
There is a lesson to be learned here for UFO physicists, marketing teams, and anyone touting extraordinary claims. If you want people to buy your books, watch your movies, or believe your stories of the incredible, you better give them a good reason to, and more importantly, you had better not treat them like they're stupid.
And that also relates to who? Mr. Corbell.
I'm not gonna say that name.
You were thinking it though when it was talking about
I'm not gonna say that name. Not gonna do it.
Are you cowards? Are you cowards? You chicken. I bet alien scientists, if I had him on here, he would be going to town on this. So yeah, you can see there's a lot of comments also on here, which I haven't actually read. I only found it before I went to bed last night, and I thought, oh, this is quite interesting, quite funny article. So he's obviously got a link to the actual Reddit thing, so you could actually go there and find how bad it performs. Also, there's other Reddits about it too. So Dr. They call him a doctor here, so he must have a PhD then. Yeah, he talks about PhD there. But didn't we read that
Yeah,
he had
is
masters?
is that an assumption? Yeah, he had 2 degrees. He had this what it was, a BS and MA.
Yeah, that's
or
what I
MS,
read. That's not
something like that.
PhD, is it?
No, it isn't.
Unless he's got it given to him after, how you leave universities and they award it.
Yeah. Honorary.
What's it called? Post something or other.
It's an honorary degree.
Yeah. And that's also what that cuckoo guy, the Japanese American guy that you see on TV blabbing on about science theory and Big Bang and all that sort of stuff. He got honorary degrees as well. But so what did they say there? He never gave any context to begin with, which is exactly why his Ask Me Anything bombed in the first place. Stanton Friedman, MS. It says MS here. So it's changed further down. So it's not PhD, not doctor. Should certainly have known better than to have gotten involved in such a flanky mess. But my point is that it's hardly surprising he didn't know what he was getting into. What he got was inevitable, right or wrong. If you see an old guy screw up and get on the wrong bus, is it okay to make fun of him? I guess if it is on the internet, at least Craig has figured out that he's going to be dishing up criticism. He needs to take his share. Thanks for not deleting my message. So yeah, you can see people are confused what his qualifications are, whether he has a PhD or not. So yeah, some interesting stuff coming. Oh, here we go, Bob Lassard bit here. All very Bob Lassard. The guy tells people to go watch the flying saucers on a Wednesday night at a public road, Goose Lake. Plenty of people just do just that and report success. According to Stan, Bob Lassard is fraud. Just how he arrives at that opinion after so many witnesses, the saucer that Bob saw the sea is beyond my reasoning. So we sort of covered all that before, why Bob's a fraud and why his science he got from magazines and it didn't actually work as claimed, because we've now got detectors for gravitational waves. So I've been through all that before. But that UFO video also that they talk about Wednesday nights, I thought could easily be faked. Could be lights on a mountain range or something was playing in the sky or something. It could be anything, a drone in the sky with a light, a plane, a helicopter. Or it could have been just how they use handy cams back then, where they sort of zoom in and it goes that sort of crazy shapes. People have filmed stars that actually look like UFOs on handy cam. There's an example. Did I show it on live? Where the guy shows how you can fake a UFO just using a handy cam. And it looked very convincing.
No.
It looked very
I
convincing.
haven't seen that.
No, okay.
Wow.
I'm not sure if I can find it again. But yeah, Stanton AM8. People want to read about it. See if we can find the Reddit posts. So it's more me posting links. So where is everybody today?
I don't know.
No, don't they find this stuff interesting? Because I find it interesting. What we find out today about nuclear planes and the interview with Stanton and all that. And some stuff that we haven't heard before on the interview about that job that he got offered that got cancelled. Never Martin said, I don't think I've heard about this. Research on a rocket engine. So that brings us back to the Roswell stuff, and we're already running out of time. But yeah, I think I closed one of my important tabs. Let's see. What was that one there? Let me just get my bearings. I think it was a map of Mogul, wasn't it? Let's reload it just in case. Doesn't seem to go to any particular image. I think it was this one here. Mogul flight thing. So remember that that one of the excuses for Roswell was this Mogul balloon. I think I had a wiki on it and I must have closed it. I think that might have been the one, is it? Oh no, here it is. So Project Mogul, sometimes referred to as Operation Mogul, was a top secret project. So I'll just get that to read out some of that.
Operation Mogul was a top-secret project by the United States Army Air Forces involving microphones flown on high-altitude balloons, whose primary purpose was long-distance detection of sound waves generated by Soviet atomic bomb tests. The project was carried out from 1947 until early 1949. It was a classified portion of an unclassified project by New York University, NYU. Atmospheric researchers. The project was moderately successful, but was very expensive and was superseded by a network of seismic detectors and air sampling for fallout, which were cheaper, more reliable, and easier to deploy and operate.
Yeah, so as you know, they're meant to have these array of sensors all around the world now on islands and stuff like that, and they can detect seismic movement in China and Russia. That they know they're doing underground testing, or North Korea, of course. But also they can detect sounds, and also they can pick up recordings of sperm whales moving through the oceans and stuff like that, and submarines as well. They've got these arrays that seem to do lots of detection. They actually got some hidden under the seabed, that you wouldn't know about. Probably got out of coastal New Zealand here as well, and Australia, whatnot. So yeah, so basically, I thought the Project Mogul's where they dropped human-sized things as well. Does it talk about that here? So they're talking about a microphone on it, but they also claim that he dropped test dummies from him, wasn't it? Was it the Mogul one, or was it the Project Skyhook one? Hang on, let's see.
I'm trying to speed read through here as quickly as I can.
Project Mogul was a forerunner of Skyhook program, espionage programs, and flight surveillance. So let's. I was just trying to find out where the dummy things come into it, and I thought it might be there, but I didn't actually see anything about dummies being dropped.
No, I didn't.
Yeah. So have I got the wrong program? Maybe it's the Skyhook one. So that's Mogul. I'll just close down some of these tabs because seem to close the wrong ones if I'm not careful. So here's the flight path anyway of this balloon that they claim they launched, and the flight path, and the Forester Ranch crash site here. So the Mogul flight path actually flew right over the area, is what they're saying here. Mogul balloons launched here. And what's this one here? Something balloon crash site. What's that one there saying? Killerton. AP water. So they launched the balloon here. So what's this one here? I'm not too sure. Killerton balloon crash site. Is that what they called the balloon, weather balloon that crashed? So let's just visit that site anyway, see what it says. The phony Mogul balloon trajectory. So it looks like they've done some analysis here. saying it can't be. More crash site, Roswell base. So what are they comparing it to here? Moles North. Seems like it goes in a bit of depth here. So I don't think it is this balloon anyway, but this person obviously doesn't believe it's this balloon. We talked about that in the first live, talking about X-planes and other possible testing that was going on. And of course, recently we talked about the nuclear engines and maybe it spread nuclear waste and they cleaned it up. And that's why they need all the people to pick up the debris, a cleanup crew. So there's lots of possibilities that we've come across in the 2 lives that we're doing now.
Hey, great.
There's a number of problems with some of Kellyan's testimony as noted. So who's Kellyan? Kellyan was dispatched to Roswell.
I don't know. I don't know who he is.
Yeah, this is why we need someone like Rob, if he knows what they're talking about here. I don't know all the players and names and dates. 45
That's
minutes
first time
after
I've
the
met
story
name.
broke. So it sounds like an Air Force person then, because he was dispatched 45 minutes after the news, took down the base press release when it was phoned in from Roswell by AP stringer George Welsh.
Oh, so he was the guy that went ahead and initially took down the information from somebody else.
So he's
That's all he
the
is.
man in black.
Yeah.
The man in black or men in black. Kinahan also claimed that Brazel's ranch was south of Van. How do you say that name? And that the balloon crash site was right off the highway, blah, blah, blah. Since Khan would have tried to get to Roswell as quickly as possible to cover the story, he likely would have followed the most direct route from Albuquerque to Roswell. So he come down this way, down this road. And we're talking about this other location for the AAF. What's that? It's American Air Force. Bagel balloons launched here. So I'm not sure what the problem is. Wind direction, maybe?
I'm trying to follow the logic myself here.
Yeah, I think it's a wee bit too much for my brain being tired at the moment. There's obviously a lot of reading here to wrap your head around. But I'll post the link anyway, and people can look over it. But I don't think it's going to be that balloon anyway, because the debris doesn't sound right for it. Have a look. So obviously they're plotting lots of charts here. So you got to wrap your head around what they're talking about: miles north and miles east, and what it really means. And what's this one here? Wind speed. There you go. Mogul flight number 11, 7th of July. So what's it trying to tell us here? Wind speed and direction from Albuquerque, Roswell, El Paso. So we've got blue, red, purple, and green. Blue, mean motion from Albuquerque. So it looks like the balloon is way off any of these ones here for wind direction. So that'd be one way to debunk it, which direction all the different winds were going for all the different launches. Sort of doesn't match up straight away, debunks the story. So yeah, that's what I thought they were going to get down to there. And the flight path obviously is related to the wind direction. So which one was that one now? That one there. Get rid of that one. So yeah, Skyhook balloon. So what is that one? That was before Mogul. Is that one they dropped people from? I think it might be. Or what dummies from, I should say.
Skyhook balloons were high-altitude balloons developed by Otto C. Winzen and General Mills. Incorporated, they were used by the United States Navy Office of Naval Research, ONR, in the late 1940 seconds and 1950 seconds for atmospheric research, especially for constant level meteorological observations at very high altitudes. Instruments like the Cherenkov detector were first used on Skyhook balloons.
See, I could see, could they lift up a plane with a monkey in it and drop it from high altitude? I suppose it's possible. Before they put humans in it, and because they don't want humans to die or get radiation sickness or whatever. That's the sort of thing I was covering last time. But plastic balloons. So they talk about plastic here. Could be transmitted or send instrument into the stratosphere. But where's the crash dummies that they talked about? I thought it might have been the Skyhook one. Did you find any information there about the dummies? You haven't fallen asleep, have you?
No, I'm here. You've got to remember, I'm about 15 seconds behind you, and I'm trying to read it, and you're like scrolling through it so quick.
Yeah,
So
I don't spend too long on it. That's all. But you can see here, launching it from looks like a fishing trawler, Navy ship or something. So I don't know. What's the thing about test dummies? So let's see if we can find something. Test dummies, Roswell. That's the thing here, Roswell crash dummies. Was it that one? Don't be a dummy. Back in summer 1999, the Roswell were very likely crash test dummies used in high altitude. So it's got to be the Skyhook one, isn't it? I think if someone saw bodies, which we couldn't verify, they would be able to tell the difference between a crash dummy and the person, surely.
I should hope so.
I think a lot more went on there that's covered up, and maybe it's disgusting that was too disgusting for the public to know about. Maybe they were dropping live monkeys from Skyhook and somehow it caught fire by accident and come down like a torch on fire or something and crashed into the hills. I don't know.
They probably used cadavers.
Yes, dead bodies, more than likely, yeah. People may think about donating the body to the medical science when it was used like that. So just that alien bodies found outside of Roswell were likely test dummies used in high altitude experiments. The theory provoked a wealth of debate within the domain of ufology. Eagle Eye slews that the dummy test didn't even begin until 1952, 5 years after Roswell occurred. But that doesn't mean they weren't testing, maybe officially they were testing it then, but maybe if it was top secret and it hasn't been declassified, they may have been testing similar stuff out. So there is lies going on, there's cover-ups going on. What the real truth is still that we don't know. And I don't think we'll probably ever know. It depends if the information will ever be released. Maybe people just have to wait till people die off and new people come in and say, well, that should be released public domain now, which might be happening with the to the star stuff. with Tom DeLonge and all this new stuff they're talking about. Maybe it's that time when enough people have died off that control the information that now the newcomers are saying, yes, it's about time that people knew about it. But the problem is you always got that thing that we don't want the Russians to know or the Chinese to know, because we're scared that they might get the technology and come and invade us or whatever. Again, would be
infection.
Yeah, absurd to imagine that people can mistake dummies for aliens, chiefly because the dummies were all 6-footers or thereabouts. Yep. 90% of all UFOs can be explained. Statement. So there's not much there on that one. So it was part of Skyhook program then, is what they're saying, is it? I still didn't get an answer there. Just high altitude balloons. What's that one say there? So it's part of the Wikipedia. Bad memories of recoveries of test dummies. Okay. I wonder if that's a copyright image thing that we could play. But anyway, we'll just pass on it. Skyhook, we can pass on that now. And the first one was weather balloons. So I was looking at this just to try and find out when they started using weather balloons and what were they made of. And this picture of an early one there by the looks of it. So they used rubber or latex. And as I read on that report here that I found in the book, in 1947, weather balloons material, the first time they used polyethylene weather balloons, a material uncommon in the late 1940s. So that happened with the material that sort of unwraps itself. So it would be like a mystery product, you know, if the rancher or the Air Force guy and put his hands on it and crunched it up and it unraveled, they thought it was like a futuristic material. So this is a book reference talking about Nazi UFOs. I think a special report 2011 Hitler's secret UFO weapons. I tried to post the link, but I couldn't. But I put in here 90 with the weather balloon material in Google, and I come across this book talking about the new material being used for the first time in 1940s, just when Roswell happened. So could there be like some sort of other secret experiment that was going on using this new material on airplane, you know, because they used it in airplane manufacture to make them lighter and reflect radar.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It looks like it's not loading the pages now. It didn't load the book. There was actually more pages here you could read about the UFO stuff, which was quite interesting. There was one of many sightings of the new famous Foo Fighters. So it talks about a lot about UFOs here in Germany. So close that one down, I guess. Weather balloons. Material and equipment balloon. The self-produced lift, usually made of a high flexible latex. There you go. Though chlorophene may also been used, so we've got to find out what that is there. So we've got a little picture of it. It's obviously carbon-based. There's a common name for 2-chlorobutyl 1.3 dilene. Crazy names that scientists come up with chemical formula CH2 CC C chloride C hydrogen C hydrogen 2. Okay. is a colorless volatile liquid almost extensively used as a monomer for the production of polychlorine and type of synthetic rubber. So yeah, they used to take rubber from trees that used to drip out sap. And of course, they could only produce so much of that, and obviously they wanted to make a synthetic version of it. And obviously, we've got a picture of a swimsuit popping up there. Whereabouts is that? So that's what the early river balloons were made of. Not the reflective material. So we only got one watching now. What happened now? Are you still there, John, or you gone away again?
Oh, I'm quite here.
All right. I know we need to fix that video thing so you can see what I'm doing in real time. So that brings us what is latex. How are we going for time? Oh, we've got 20 minutes. Latex is a stable, how do you say that word? Dispersion immersion of polymer microparticles in a aqueous medium. It was found in nature but synthetic latex can be made by polymerizing a monomer such as styrene that has been emulsified with surfactants.
Your mouth is going to explode.
Latex. So obviously here's the sap dripping from the tree. Extraction of latex from a tree for use in rubber production. Latex is a stable. Latex is found in nature as a milky fluid found in 10% of all flowering plants. It is a complex emulsion consistent of proteins, alcohols, starches, sugars, oils. There you go. That probably why it corrodes in UV light as well, is it? How long do swimsuits last for? Do you have to replace them?
Oh wow, you're in Arizona?
Yeah, do they replace them every
Maybe.
year? Do they get cracked?
Yeah, maybe 2 seasons.
Yeah, so that's what the problem with car tires as well, wasn't it? And
yes.
Of course, tar roads also get very, very hot over here sometimes, and the car tires would stick to the road, certainly melt.
Yeah.
So we can close that one down. So we scared off our watches here, did we? Okay. So yeah, we're just talking about the flight path for all the different locations where, if it was an experimental craft, where it could come from. The logical one is White Sands Court, as they call it, to Air Force Base here, to Roswell. It's the shortest distance here. And actually, that's, if you look at that map where they're talking about Project Mogul, they're talking about it being launched from an Air Force Base down this way. Was it White Sands that it was launched from? I don't think it was now.
Yeah, White Sands, I'm pretty sure, yeah.
Seemed to be below where they're saying it was being launched from. So, yeah, we can close that one down too. And get onto the more interesting stuff. So, where do I begin? Where do I start? So, yeah, I read out this one last time, which was quite interesting, where someone was asking whether Mylar could have been an Area 51 product or used before it was actually released in the 1950s, or they made something similar. So DuPont and Imperial Chemistry Industries invented BOPET, which is the name for Mylar. Was found at Area 50. What was found at Area 50 was likely nothing more than some scraps of Mylar or BOPET. The need to keep this information too secret is self-evident. I can't say it now. Relevant. I'll just get it to read it out anyway. I can't read anymore. My tongue's swollen. Evident. Yes, it. I tell you. I know the word in my head, but I just can't get it to come out.
What was found at Area 51 was likely nothing more than some scraps of Mylar or bucket. The need to keep this information top secret is self-evident. Military secrets give a country an advantage, and if this stuff was being used in the development of more advanced airships, then picking the pieces of this stuff, which looked like it could only be made by an advanced alien species, after a crash would have been a wise move for the military personnel.
That's sort of crackling a bit again. I hope it's coming out all right. So yeah, obviously you want to keep secret materials top secret. So that was quite an interesting article there. I think I posted it last time, but maybe I'll post it again. Is that the one? Mylar pre-1950s. Early 1950, was it? I can't remember now. See, people get hooked up and saying, "Oh no, they didn't do these experiments till 3 years after," but because it's classified and top secret, they may have done, and we won't know until they release all the information. You know, all the stuff that's been dedacted or retracted or whatever it's called. So let's close that one down. This is an interesting article I found too about classification levels, what it actually meant. So, shall be classified at one of the following things. Top secret shall be applied to information and unauthorized disclosure of which reasonably could be expected to be cause exceptional grave damage to national security. Secret shall be applied to information and the unauthorized disclosure of which reasonably could be expected to cause serious damage. Confidential shall be applied to information, the unauthorized disclosure of which reasonably could be expected to cause damage to national security. And it goes on a fair bit here, talking about materials, classification of level definitions and examples. Top a strategic plan documenting the overall conduct of a war. War planning documents which contain worldwide planning data, assumptions, wartime planning. So it goes through a whole list of what should be classified. I suppose they must have it formally written down. So whoever's storing information, make sure they mark it correctly. But they also talks about materials down here somewhere. Secret information, war plan, still on about that. Let's see, whereabouts was the information?
I would think that would be better.
What's this one here? Information which indicates strength of our ground, air, and naval forces, obviously. Principles of signing classification level. Diplomatic intelligence information, scientific, here we go, or technical information comprised of significant scientific or technological developments relating to national security, disclosure of scientific or technical developments vital to national security. Miscellaneous. So it goes on a bit here. Classification of scientific or technical information. 1964 DoD classification. Vital information such as nuclear weapons, sonic weapons, stockpile data, and any other munitions of comparable importance. Keeps on going. First one on on material. Whereabouts did I read it? Must have missed it.
Is there a way to do a search within the document?
Yeah, there would be. And when I looked at it, I saw it first of all. Now, when I look at it now, my eyes are going bug-eyed looking at it. Oh, that's right. I forgot about this icon being different. It's not the 3 dots, is it? I was looking for the 3 dots. It's now this orange downward arrow or something. Find. Here you go. Material. Specific details or data relating to new materials or important materials which reveal significant military and new technical developments having direct military application. Keep on going. Documents containing complete uncoded flow sheets, diagrams, or reactions, including specific pressures, temperatures, formulas, voltages. Documents containing unique nuclear, physical, and chemical characteristics. So yeah, get a look through that if you want. Might be handy for someone's research paper. There we go for time. Copy I wanted. Let's see if it will fit. Top secret levels. Of course, people say that's not it. There's also so many levels above top secret for UFO stuff that not even the president knows about it, you know. Close tab. So here's Bopet, Mylar, and we got some pictures here. Meteorized film, 32 layers of. You can see here it looks like tinfoil. Film made from stretched polyethylene, blah blah blah, is used for high tensile strength, chemical and dimensional stability, transparency. But I think it also talks about what it was used for here, about planes and stuff. Trade names known as Mylar, Menonex, and Hosplane. Was developed in mid-1950s, originally by DuPont, so we went through that before. Whether it could be used before then by NASA or military is possible, I reckon. Why won't it scroll down? Manufacture and properties. So here's a chemical image of it. Made into rolls, millimeters thick. It's done with molten sheets by the looks of it. Cools down into sheets, rolls. Can be metallized by vapor deposition. So they can add stuff to it, you know, metal, gold. It can be added to gold or other metal. That's interesting. It'll result in much less premature to gases and reflects up to 99% of light. So there's an interesting fact there, including much of the infrared spectrum.
Really?
So there you go. So that's a wiki on it. Do we trust wiki?
That's a nice little bonus. Yeah, see, this whole thing's wiki.
Bopet. I probably would have read out more of this, but we're running out of time. So just close that one down. How is Mylar made? Well, we just read it was molten, spread through rollers, squeezing it out, I suppose, and cooling it at the same time. Correct temperature can be extruded onto a cooling surface in the form of a thin film-like material. There you go. Makes big sheet. Bit like tinfoil in a way, isn't it? What's that about magnetic? I could see that. I'm pretty sure I had one of the tabs that talked about it being used in planes, but obviously I've closed it down accidentally, maybe. But I'm more interested in this other stuff that we've got coming up here, because that was some images that I talked about last time, what it looks like under the microscope, and you can see it's very porous, and it does let helium leak through, so that's why helium balloons come down rather than pop. Like weather balloons, they're made of latex rubber. They go up and they keep expanding because the pressure of the atmosphere is not on it, so it expands outwards because the internal pressure is obviously more than the outside. Eventually it pops and comes back down. Totally different concept than Mylar balloons. So Mylar balloons can go up quite high until they leak the gas out. So they could be flying across the moon when you're doing telescopes and all that sort of stuff. So here I was going to talk about shape memory alloy, but I might leave it till next time. And some other articles here. Scientists discover new type of self-healing material, and could talk more about it on the next one we do. Which kind of makes you, again, I think I talked about this on the blimps, self blimps, that couldn't you just simply shoot them down? Well, a bullet just passes through, and if you had material that could self-heal, that it could fill the holes back in, and they could just create more gas, more helium, or from gas cylinders and just fill it up, So it'd be very hard to shoot it down. And of course, helium's not explosive, of course, So you can't make it go boom like a Hindenburg. The other thing is they're talking about stuff where you heat it up. It talks about here, damage in air, healed after 5 minutes. You can see it's self-repelled. So yeah, I might just go next time and read all that out. Just leave it there. So this one's quite interesting too. Self-repairing material plucks carbon from the air. So that's quite interesting. A bit like how plants probably grow their leaves, right? So it talks about here how it seals up a cut or hole or whatever, which means they would probably want to use that on planes, wouldn't they? If it had a missile that sort of blew a hole in its wing, that they could have nano things or some way of repairing its hole in its wing without having to land. So yeah, we'll see, maybe we'll find out more information on metamaterials and maybe expand the tabs out here. I don't know. Maybe something you can find yourself out there and let me know for the next live that we could cover it. But I was looking at that to see whether the Mylar or they had some special self-healing metal that was part of the crash site, whether it was. So this goes to show it doesn't have to be alien technology, but humans are working on this idea now. So they probably were thinking about it years ago too, but they probably didn't have the technology or the plastics that they have now. The idea of carbon and all that sort of stuff. It's fascinating stuff, I find, anyway. But yeah, my head's done in now, so I'm going to have to leave it. So what are we going to use for a cover page for this one? I don't know. I think I had Stanton Friedman up, did I? I think I did. So I'll just leave it with that one. So yeah, thanks for watching, guys, and I'm just going to close off this the live now, and we might cover more on this next time if Rob wants to come on and talk more about Roswell. That would be great. But this one sort of was mostly on Stanton Friedman in the end. So yeah, I better wind down here. Do like and share and show support. Is it? This is